Thank you, guys, and welcome to our fourth annual Missoula Juneteenth celebration. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces and also some new faces in the crowd today, so we all appreciate you being here. My name is Murray Pierce, and I'm one of the founding members of our local Montana Black Collective, Missoula. We are a grassroots organization geared towards education and engagement. Just a couple of housekeeping issues before we really get started here. The restrooms are located, there's a couple of different restrooms. There's one inside of the building that's right here, and then there's also one out back by the train, and they'll be open throughout the entirety of the program. If you're interested in MCBM events and would like to participate or volunteer, there's a couple of sign-up tables around. There's one in the back, and there's one up on the hill, too, with someone sitting under there as well, too. So we'd like to get your email address and that stuff if you're interested in continuing to participate. For those of you with young children, we have a crafts table that's going to be open. Chris, is Chris around? I'm right here. Throughout the day, throughout the time? Okay. Is it open right now? Okay. There you go. So those of you with children who are a little bit restless, you can more than likely take them over there and they can have some fun. And finally, remember to stick around for conversation as well as free food provided by the University Congregational Church. Okay? So we begin today's program like we typically do our events when people are new to each other. We want everybody to get up, if you can, and we want you to move around, and we want to give time for people to meet as many people as you can. So introduce yourself, tell who you are and what's going on for you briefly, and get up and meet people. Okay, would all the old hippies in the crowd stop hugging and gather back up again, please? All right, guys, thank you. That's something that we do on a regular basis. It's a way of networking, but it's also a way of just meeting your neighbor to a very large degree, something that doesn't happen a whole lot these days. So it's you've met new friends, you've met people you'll see in the grocery store and wave to and tell them, hey, I remember seeing you at the Juneteenth celebration. So thank you for doing that. We're going to begin formally with the playing of the Black National Anthem. If you look on the back of your program, I believe it's on the back, the words to the anthem are on the back of your program. Lift Every Voice and Sing was written by James Weldon Johnson in 1989, and in 1819, it became known as the Black National Anthem, and it was played for President Lincoln. The song recognizes the journey undertaken by formerly enslaved African Americans as a journey filled with hardship and struggle, which they endured so that we may stand unshaken by the weight of hatred. The song continues to be a vital element in African American classrooms, churches, and celebrations across the country today. We ask, if you are able, that you stand and follow the words to the song and sing along if you'd like to. Paul?
Rejoicing, rising, as the
Be seated, please. Thank you. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that was a song we sang in grade school every morning. I'd like to start off welcoming some of our dignitaries here today. I'm going to start with Martin Charlo. Martin was born and raised on the Flathead Indian Reservation. He grew up in Arlee, where he was homeschooled until the 5th grade. He graduated from Arlee High School and went on to attend the University of Washington, majoring in political science, and served on Associated Students of the University of Washington Board of Directors. Martin continued his formal education at S&K College, taking... Oh, okay, sorry. Can we turn this up a little bit? Is that better? I didn't want to get the feedback going here. That's even better? All right, clean your ears out, guys, come on. Martin follows the teachings of his elders that taught him to help all people that need it. His father, Victor, was politically active during the Civil Rights Movement, helping with the Poor People's Campaign. Martin continued his advocacy, fighting for minority rights during college protests and later with missing and murdered Indigenous persons advocacy. Martin has worked for CSKT his entire career and was elected as the Pablo District Council representative in 2019 and started his first term in 2020. He was reelected to the Tribal Council in December of 2023 and started his second term in January of 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Charlo.
Thank you, Murray. Hesquex, Pesia, good morning, everyone. I think it's still morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Martin Charlo. As Murray said, I represent the Pablo District. I also serve as a secretary on our tribal council. And I think this all started out as a land acknowledgement. So, if you know the history of this area, this is kind of the home of a lot of different tribes, predominantly the Bitterroot Salish, Pend Oreille, Upper Kalispel, and various other tribes that I'm not a part of, so I won't speak to them, but they definitely have their footprints across this land. And as we get into this year and kind of what we're celebrating today, looking at the parallels between our people and the connections that we continue to have, it's really important to think about the things going on out there in the world over land and over imaginary lines and imaginary kind of boundaries that we didn't know and we didn't understand because the land wasn't owned by people. We were stewards of the land. We were guests here, and we all tried to make it a better place. And the things that are going on currently with borders and the intimidation of people and relatives and saying that people are illegal here and this land belongs to us and you can't cross this imaginary line without documentation. Those things never happened, and they weren't in our DNA. And so as we go forward, kind of marching together and remembering who our allies are and remembering that we're all stewards of this land, no matter who you are or what you do, you should take pride in what you have. You should take care of it. You should always leave it better than you found it. And the other thing that's going on now is we are, the intimidation and the kind of uncertainty that we have out there as people of color, as marginalized people. The things they're doing are really punishing the most marginalized, and we need to make sure that we stand together, look at our brothers and sisters out there that are less fortunate than us, they don't have the correct paperwork or the correct thing to cross imaginary lines, and we need to be allies to them as well and be very calculating about how we go forward and make sure that we use opportunities like this to speak on those type of things, because we are in a place right now where it's a little scary. You know, Native people have kind of been somewhat exempted from a lot of the DEI things, some of the other things that are really marginalizing more people, yet we get caught up in it at times. We have to choose between doing a warming and cooling center and having a program that helps people coming out of incarceration and out of prisons and jails and getting them wraparound services. And so we have to make those tough decisions based on an administration that doesn't understand people and who they should be helping and not marginalizing more. And so I appreciate the time. If I offended anyone, I apologize, but a lot of these messages I feel don't get out as much as they should. And we need to use our voices when we have the opportunity. So, Lemlemch, thank you. Thank you, Murray.
Thank you, Martin. Martin's been doing this since its inception here for Missoula, and I just want to say a heartfelt thanks for all that you do and continue to do. Thank you. Just a quick word. My back is out, so I'm sitting. It's not out of any level of disrespect or anything, but my back is out, so I will sit and stand as I'm able to today. I want to bring up Matt Lotzenhauser now from the Historic Museum at Fort Missoula and our co-sponsor.
Sorry, I'm not as tall as Martin, or Murray for that matter. So I just wanted to, on behalf of the museum, thank everybody for taking the time this morning to come out and help us host this 4th annual Juneteenth celebration. This event grew out of a Buffalo Soldiers gathering we had in celebration of the 125th anniversary of the Iron Ride, where the Buffalo Soldiers rode 1,900 miles in 41 days to St. Louis, Missouri. But I remember having conversations around that initially, and it turned out that the event we were planning was going to end on June 18th. And so at that point, a bunch of us came together and said, you know, June 19th is the next day. Let's make this a capstone event that we can celebrate at the end of this week of celebration of the Buffalo Soldiers. So it grew out of that. From that, I got to know our members here of the Montana Black Collective and to build relationships with them. We've now just finished a 3-year partnership with the International Sites of Conscience between the museum and the Montana Black Collective. And we've come together and we've learned and we've built this relationship that I think is going to serve the museum for generations to come. So we're just incredibly proud to be able to be part of this and to work with Murray and the collective. I guess the last thing I would say is this kind of thing is what we need to do now. As a museum, as a museum, we have 2 choices moving forward. We can either cower in fear, or we can continue to do the work and put on these type of events. And I'm incredibly proud to have this partnership with Murray and the Collective, and incredibly proud that our museum can continue to do things like this. So thank you so much for coming out today. We appreciate it.
There's going to be a lot to digest today. Talk about a lot of things, a lot of different things. Thank you. It's going to be a lot to digest today. A lot of speakers talking about a lot of different things. Matt, I appreciate you because it brings to mind something I think that we could, a takeaway for everybody here are 2 words: institutional courage. Look at those institutions that you work with. Keep that in the forefront of your mind. Now's not the time to cower. Now is not the time to cower. I'm going to bring up John Lunn from the University Congregational Church. John, are you? Oh, there he is.
My name's John. I serve as pastor at University Congregational Church. I was asked to do a land acknowledgement. This is one that we had a committee working on for over a year or two to put together thoughtfully from the lens of settler perspective and framing. And I just want to say, it's really good you're here. If this is your first time coming, it matters. So thanks for being here. So in the interest of truth and healing, we acknowledge that the Salish and Calypso Bay people have lived on and cared for this land for thousands of years. As part of Western expansion, settlers claimed this valley, including the land upon which this fort is built. As witnesses to the historical and ongoing harm done by colonization to indigenous peoples' lifeways and the land, we commit to learning from the original peoples of this place, to building friendships, and to taking action to work towards a more just and equitable future. And this event is in that vein. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Josh Slotnick, County Commissioner. Josh, go ahead.
Thanks, everybody, for having me. Like Murray said, my name's Josh Slotnick. I'm one of our 3 Missoula County Commissioners. The other 2, Dave and Juan, are here as well. Before I dive in, I want to say thanks to the Black Collective and to the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula and Matt for hosting this spectacular event. On my morning commute, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Institutional courage, yes. So on my morning commute this morning, I was listening to the news on our beloved Montana Public Radio. I'm only throwing that out because their funding is on the chopping block. There was a news story where celebrants from Juneteenth events across the country were interviewed, and many of them described postponing, shortening, curtailing, otherwise shrinking their events out of fear for what's happening in our current moment. And I'm so proud that we did not do that. You all did not do that. Matt did not do that. All right, now you're just stuck with me for the next 5-6 minutes. On this day in 1865, Union soldiers rode into Galveston, Texas, to inform enslaved Americans that they were now free. This happened 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation and 2 months after the war had ended. One of the reasons I believe we must celebrate this day is to honor those specific people from 160 years ago. Before I talk about them, I want to hit on 160 years ago, because it sounds like a really long time ago. So impossibly long, nothing like that could happen. Now this is ancient beyond ancient history. Well, this morning, when I was going over what I was going to say today, I asked my phone, how many generations is 160 years? Oh, is this messing with your ears? Everybody, I'll stand back. Is this better? Okay, so I asked Google, how many generations is 160 years? And the answer was 6 to 7. So I thought about that for a moment. I knew my refugee great-grandfather and refugee great-grandmother, a Bubby and a Zadie. I knew them. And right now, I know my 2 grandsons, Oscar and Hugo. Add that up, that's 7 generations, counting me. The long span of one person's life is 7 generations. That's 160 years ago. This was not that long ago. So if we can establish that this wasn't that long ago, let's hold on for a moment. The first reason I believe we must celebrate this, those folks who realized their freedom that day. I believe from our perch here in the 21st century, we can't really fathom the depth of their pain. Just try to imagine for a moment, I've tried and I couldn't fully do it, what it would be like if your life and your person was not your own. That's a lot. Also, I cannot imagine what it would be like if those were returned to you. So the first reason we must celebrate this is to honor the people who lived through that. Reason number one. They were officially given their freedom on that day. Officially. On paper, every American had freedom. We didn't necessarily, supposedly, have to fight the bloodiest war in American history where Americans killed Americans over the enslavement of other Americans. Just wrap your mind around that. On paper, 250 years ago, see if this rings for you. We hold these truths to be self-evident. You remember in this? Self-evident means it just is. You don't have to prove it. It's like gravity. That all people are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Inalienable means those rights cannot be taken away. They are just of you. These include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That, to my mind, equals freedom. So how is it that every American was free and that these folks were enslaved? What happened? America happened. And what I mean by that is I'm seeing America as a project, a very specific project to take those transcendental ideals and make them real in a world populated by human beings, people who are often moved by the most base and common of impulses towards fear and greed and the deep-seated belief that prosperity is a zero-sum game. That means if for me to do well, other people can't do well. Because if they're doing well, it means I'm not. That's a zero-sum game. These impulses have been in steady conflict against those transcendental ideals I just mentioned. That is the American project. I said there were 3 reasons why we need to celebrate this holiday. Now, looking not that long ago, at 160 years ago, in generations, my great-grandfather, I knew him. I can say he was just a person. And my grandkids, just people. They are no different than any of us. We could all commit such horrible sins and crimes. We are no different. The only thing that makes us and gives us a little advantage is that we have their mistakes to learn from. That's the second reason why we celebrate this holiday. By marking this and inviting our brothers and sisters to come participate, we push that learning forward. It's the only way the lessons remain alive. That's the second reason. The third reason, and we are surrounded by it today, surrounded by it in our country, and if your eyes are open, you get to experience it every moment of every day, and that is Black culture and Black excellence. Those are the 3 reasons. Go celebrate.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Inspirational words, and thank you for telling the truth, speaking truth to power. Appreciate you. We next have up our mayor, Andrea Davis.
I'll try not to speak too loud. Is that all right? Can you hear me okay? Oh, yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me be part of the celebration today. Thank you to the Montana Black Collective and to the Historical Fort Museum for continuing this celebration. I'm looking out into the audience and I'm seeing more and more Missoulians and people from around the region here. And I am so thrilled to see that more of our community is showing up together. Thank you. This is incredible. And some of the words, I've been asked to read the proclamation that was adopted by the County of Missoula and the City of Missoula in honor of Juneteenth Day, and I'll do that now. Whereas Missoula County and the city of Missoula acknowledge the lasting impacts of racism in the United States, fueled largely by the horrific institution of slavery. And whereas news of the end of slavery did not reach frontier areas of the United States for more than 2 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation of January 1st, 1863, and months after the end of the Civil War. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, Union soldiers arrived in Texas with news that the Civil War had ended and the enslaved were free, and African Americans have celebrated this anniversary known as Juneteenth Independence Day for more than 150 years to honor African American freedom while encouraging self-development, respect, and dignity for all people. And whereas the character demonstrated by former slaves should inspire us in this country to give thanks for the freedom won by so many people in all nations and to strive for the goals of bringing freedom and democracy to people of other countries, no matter what their race or religion. And whereas, although Juneteenth Independence Day is starting to be recognized as a national and even global event, the history behind the celebration should not be forgotten. And Montana proudly joins the 50 states and the District of Columbia in observing Juneteenth as a state or ceremonial holiday. Therefore, be it resolved. We say, then, therefore be it resolved that we, Missoula County, and the city of Missoula do hereby proclaim the 19th of June as Juneteenth Independence Day to commemorate African American emancipation from slavery, celebrate the freedom won by people in many countries, and rededicate ourselves to the cause of liberty. And I can't emphasize that enough. One of the things that my new friend Jay Lee and I were just talking about was that some of the things that are happening in our country and worldwide is a fear and hate, and it's spreading, but so does love, and so does the idealism behind liberty, and so does respect. And what you're doing today is making that happen. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you, Andrea. So let's kind of get into the meat of things. What is Juneteenth and why is it important? Josh talked a little bit about that, and he spoke eloquently about major tenets of why the holiday is here and why it is important, but we're going to expand on that just a little bit, give you just a little bit more knowledge. Knowledge is power in our estimation. You can take that and you can build upon that yourselves. So Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration which commemorates the end of the American period of enslavement. Okay, we'll continually do this. I'm kind of a quiet guy to some degree. My size belies that to a very large degree. Here we go. Okay. Is it up? Okay. Is that better, guys? Okay. Okay. During the Civil War, which lasted from April 12, 1861 to April 9, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on September 22, 1862. This landmark decree declared the freedom of all enslaved individuals, with the proclamation taking effect on January 1, 1863. In light of the fact that the country was at war, the states which had seceded from the Union did not honor Lincoln's proclamation. South Carolina separated itself at the election of Lincoln, followed by Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. After the attack on Fort Sumter, 4 more states, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, seceded and joined those who previously had withdrawn and formed the Confederate States of America. Upwards of 500,000 enslaved persons in Confederate-occupied states escaped to Union-held territories and effectively freed themselves. As the war progressed, defeated Southerners from slave-holding states left the embattled areas and took their enslaved with them. A number of them settled in Texas, which was at the time the farthest state west of the Confederacy, and resumed the practice of free slave labor. On June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger, commander of the 3rd Cavalry Brigade, speaking from his headquarters in the Osterman Building in Galveston, Texas, read General Order Number 3 to a crowd which had gathered outside. The order advised that the war had ended and all enslaved persons had been set free in 1863, some 2.5 years earlier, and 2.5 years and 2 months to be exact. The war, Lee didn't surrender until 2 months later. We have our own Paul Renaud and Chris Young-Greer are going to do a reenactment of that statement by General Granger. Paul, Chris? We don't have horses, we have bicycles now.
The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection hereforto existing between them becomes that between employee and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and works for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts, and they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere, by command of Major General Granger.
Thank you, Chris. There's a lot to unpack in that statement, and we won't get into that today. I'd invite you to take a look at that under General Granger's writings. It's General Order Number 3. Quite a bit to unpack there. So why was Texas the last state to act on the directives in the Emancipation Proclamation? Fair question. There are several reasons. Chief among them was the desire to continue the use of slave labor, irrespective of a federal government declaration. Local and state politicians opted to follow the Texas state constitution, which still allowed for its citizens to engage in commerce generated by enslavement. It was not until General Granger arrived with the force of the Union Army to crush the ongoing rebellion and assist in enforcing the document that the practice of enslavement was discontinued. It's unclear if the news of the Emancipation Proclamation was purposefully kept from folks in areas far from the battlefield. We didn't have Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook or any of those things at that time. However, we do know that when the Union Army won battles traveling through successive cities in the South, they often tasked slave owners with telling slaves that they were free. Not the best manner of getting that word across, I would guess. Huh? So although free in name and on paper, the violent backlash from a large contingent of Southerners was evident by substantial uptick in lynchings, beatings, murder, and harassments of the newly emancipated. We can parallel that to today just relative to the things that have been set forth to push back things that have been painstakingly gained. Nevertheless, the first recorded celebration of Juneteenth took place in Texas in 1866, and the festivities surrounding the commemoration soon became an annual event which quickly spread to other large cities with black populations such as Chicago, Seattle, Oakland, and Los Angeles. Then on June 15, 2021, the Senate adopted the legislation to establish Juneteenth as a federal holiday, followed by the House on June 16, 2021, and finally President Joe Biden subsequently signed the bill into law on June 17, 2021. So we are now some 160 years past its first observance, and this begs questions, or several questions. Is Juneteenth still important, and if so, why? In our answer, we want to bring up members of the Black Collective to give their voice as to why.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jayton. Juneteenth represents the realizations of a long-held dream, a dream most often dreamt in secret. Enslaved persons sang coded songs, shared an oral tradition passed down for generations, and kept faith that one day their bondage will end. Many of these dreams were shared in hush-hush groups through song, encrypted language, and dance rituals.
How's everybody doing? My name is LaShawn. Juneteenth served as the launching pad for future endeavors. Arguably, once freed and prior to the end of Reconstruction, the formerly enslaved also experienced perhaps the fullest sense of freedom to date. They became politicians, doctors, lawyers, professors, scientists, carpenters, journeymen, and had at least presumable access to a multitude of professions and experiences their skin color had previously barred them from pursuing.
Hi, my name is Chris. Today's Juneteenth celebration allows for reflection on how far we have come in the quest for equity, as well as how far we have to go. Irrespective of the number of rocks in the road, Juneteenth serves to remind us that not only do Black lives matter, but Black dreams, Black faith, Black progress, Black questions, Black answers, and Black happiness and Black joy matters as well.
My name's Sylvie. Juneteenth serves as a reminder of the need to continually make our voices heard and our desires known. We declare we are the inheritors of a tradition of a centuries-long struggle against injustice. No attempt to write us out of history, no amount of intimidation, harassment, or imposed victimization will stop us from uncovering and telling the factual truth of who we were, who we are, and how these findings impact who we state we desire to become as a people and as a nation.
Juneteenth serves as a moment to reflect upon a time in not so distant past, a past where we were forbidden opportunity, speak up, making it all the more important to pay attention as we move forward to the manner in which intentionally, historically marginalized voices will be heard in the future.
Juneteenth serves as a historical example of both aspiration and resistance come to fruition. In the words of Black historian and scholar Henry Louis Gates, in one of the most inspiring grassroots efforts of the post-Civil War period, they transformed June 19th from a day of unheeded military orders into their own annual right.
Peace and greetings. My name is Rajim Seabrook. Good morning. Juneteenth functions as a time to contemplate past and present struggles, those which we have overcome, as well as those which we continue to battle. And like any battle, sometimes scars are the result. Some have termed this condition PTSS, or post-traumatic slave syndrome. It is defined as a condition that exists when a population has experienced multi-generational trauma resulting from centuries of enslavement and continues to experience oppression and institutionalized racism today. University of New Mexico professor Dr. Maria Yellowhorse Braveheart defines these scars, these experiences of displacement, marginalization, and their modern-day impact in the Native American experience as historic trauma. She argues that unresolved grief and loss in the context of the Native experience in America continues to negatively impact their chances to move forward. It is our collective sense that this definition applies to Black folks' enslavement experiences as well. Dr. Yellowhorse Braveheart argues the necessity of understanding historic trauma as it is only through the lens whereby reconciliation of these issues may be addressed and movement forward may commence. She writes, first is confronting the historical trauma. Second is understanding the trauma. Third is releasing the pain of historical trauma. Fourth, and finally, is transcending that trauma.
Finally, Juneteenth serves as a reminder of what has been endured and the need to continually educate ourselves in recognition of the fact that the less regard you have for educating yourself, the less demonstrable capacity you have to think for yourself. And the less ability you have to think for yourself, the greater the likelihood you will be manipulated and swayed by those who desire to think for you. I want to thank the collective. Appreciate you guys. One more hand for the collective, please. We as a collective now take opportunity to share with you the insights and viewpoints brought forth by the younger generation. It's our sense that these are the individuals whose jobs it will be to continue the fight for inclusion and justice. Zion Moore is one such person. Zion is the new director of the University of Montana's Branch Center. She joins us from Cullowhee, North Carolina, Western Carolina University, where she received her bachelor's in psychology with a minor in leadership and her master's in higher education student affairs. She was raised in Chicago, Illinois, on the west side of the city. Her passion for mentorship, interconnectedness, equity, and belonging has led her to her current position. She hopes to inspire students to pursue their passions, advocate for their beliefs, and take control of their college journey. Ladies and gentlemen, Zion Moore.
Can y'all hear me? I'm sorry, I'm not as tall as everybody else. Thank you. Rude. Y'all see this? They bullied me here. I'm just playing. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zion, and I'm from Chicago, born and raised. I recently moved here from North Carolina, where I went to the Western Carolina University. That's where I went to school, and then I stayed for 2 more years to get my master's in higher education student affairs with a concentration in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so in my current role, I oversee the Branch Center. And if you don't know what the Branch Center is known as the Multicultural Center on the University of Montana's campus. The Branch Center was named after Dr. Teresa Branch. She was the first African-American vice provost of student affairs at the university. And she always wanted a place that celebrated diversity and where students could feel as though they belonged. And so therefore, in 2016, they dedicated the Branch Center to her. And now I am the first African-American director over that space. Thank you. So it'll be a year at the end of July since I've been in Missoula, and I'd also just like to give a big thanks to the Black Collective for welcoming me here with open arms and providing me with that sense of community I've been longing. So thank you. So thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time to honor Juneteenth, a day that means so much more than just a date in history. For me, Juneteenth is not just about the past. It's about legacy. It's about identity. And it's about the ongoing pursuit of freedom. Not just freedom from slavery, but freedom to live fully, safely, and joyfully as a Black person in America. Juneteenth marks June 19th, 1865, a day when Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce that the Civil War was over and that enslaved people were free. But this was more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. It should also be noted that 6 months later, Kentucky and Delaware had finally acknowledged the Emancipation Proclamation once the 13th Amendment was ratified. So when we talk about Juneteenth, we're talking about delayed freedom. We're talking about a system that knew how to withhold justice and a people who knew how to endure anyway. To me, Juneteenth is personal. I think about my ancestors, about the elders in my family, some of whom were born not long after that moment in history. I think about how their sacrifices, their labor, their love made it possible for me to stand here today. Their stories aren't written in textbooks. They're written in my blood. So, Juneteenth is also a day to tell the truth about the ways oppression changes shape but never fully disappears unless we challenge it. It's a reminder that we are still fighting for equity, for protection, for representation, and for peace of mind. But Juneteenth is not just somber. It's also about joy. It's about reclaiming our narrative, not just as survivors, but as creators, innovators, healers, and leaders. It's about music, food, laughter, family, and resistance through celebration. Juneteenth is the sound of drums, the taste of home-cooked meals that carry generations of memory and comfort. It's laughter on porches, children running barefoot through sprinklers and playing hand games on the front cobblestone, uncles on the grill, and aunties stepping in the kitchen. It's the storytelling, the music, the colors, the rhythm of people who never were supposed to survive but did, and who weren't supposed to thrive, yet they do. Joy is not the absence of struggle. It's the choice to celebrate anyway. Joy is resistance. Joy is healing. Joy is sacred. When I think of Juneteenth, I think of my people. I think of those who never saw freedom with their own eyes, but dreamed of me standing here today, speaking these words and living this life. I think of my grandmother, born in Mississippi, circa 1933, and her mother and her mother's mother, whose very presence connects me to a time not so far removed from that very first Juneteenth. And I carry their legacy. I carry the weight of what they survived and the light of what they passed on. Juneteenth is how we honor that legacy, not just with reflection, but with celebration. Not just by mourning what was stolen, but by lifting up what we've built. So today we remember, we reflect, but we also rejoice, because that's what our people have always done, even when it wasn't safe, even when it wasn't legal, even when no one else saw the beauty in us, we did. So today, I honor Juneteenth by remembering, but also by continuing to speak up, to show up, to heal, to build, to love, and to live. Freedom didn't come easily for those before me, and it's not fully here yet, let's be honest. But their fight is not in vain, because I'm here, we are here, and we are not going back. Thank you.
So irrespective of what you see out there today, what you see going on, my sense of it is our future's in pretty good hands. So I want to thank you all for being here and for sharing in this unique experience that is Juneteenth, and as a vital and integral part of American history. And I know that there's a lot of pushback these days about history, about pushing history to the hinterlands, pushing it under the cover and doing those things. But I would challenge you all here today to find pieces of American history that were unknown to you at some point. And we can start by taking a look at the Statue of Liberty. How many know, by raise of hand, the story of the Statue of Liberty? A few of us do. A few of us do. Do you know that there's some evidence that it was modeled on a black woman? Do you know that there's some evidence that, no, actually it's a truism, it's not evidence, that there's the facts that the Statue of Liberty itself was developed by La Boule as a gift to the United States for the end of slavery. So the actual statue itself underwent a number of different incarnations. One was to change from chains or shackles that it was holding and breaking to a torch and a placard, a lectern, or whatever she was holding, right? The chains are still evident. They're still on her feet. You have to take an aerial view in most instances to see those, but those chains are still there. We were told a different story about the Statue of Liberty when I grew up. So, I mean, just something as simple as that is critically important in terms of investigating and vetting history. Critically important if we want to have the full story told. Someone said here to tell the truth. Well, if you're going to tell the truth, tell it all. So again, thank you for being here. Special thanks to our sponsors, John Lund and the University Congregational Church, the Historic Museum at Fort Missoula, Mike Bryant, Susan Hay-Patrick, and our collective's fiscal sponsor, the United Way of Missoula County, Missoula Public Library, the University of Montana Black Student Union, Headwaters Incorporated, the Missoula Broadcasting Company, Empower Montana, and the Missoula YWCA. Forgive me if I've left anyone out. If you would like to stay updated on future events that the collective is sponsoring, we encourage you to visit our sign-up table, as we said earlier. The collective sponsors and assist with a number of local events, including the annual Martin Luther King holiday celebration, the newly developed by the collective, by Jayton, if he's still here, the Ruby Bridges Walk, the University of Montana Black Solidarity Summit we participate in, the Missoula Juneteenth celebration, our Soul Food Sunday potluck series. I would encourage you guys to come to that, and film and discussion events throughout the community. We are excited to announce a couple things this fall. One, their upcoming events. One's a gathering and a presentation of the PBS biopic celebrating the Quasqua Centennial of the Buffalo Soldiers. This event was created by Bobby McDonnell, who was here in Missoula several years ago, and hosted by the collective in collaboration with the Historic Museum at Fort Missoula. Further details regarding these dates and times and locations will be provided soon. On September 16th, in conjunction with the collective and Travelers Rest State Park, we present the documentary Big Medicine Outdoors. The film chronicles the untold story of York, the black member of the Lewis and Clark Corps of Discovery. Regarding additional Juneteenth-related events this week, yoga enthusiasts will be happy to know that there are 2 yoga-related events Friday and Saturday. Friday, June 20th, 5:30 to 7, Yoga to Address Isms. That's at the Smith Black Furniture, 2025 South Higgins. Saturday from 10 to 11, Yoga Liberation Flow. That's at 125 North Patty. We'd also like to announce that today at 5, Suite 2, 1001 Southwest, the BIPOC Coalition, in conjunction with local radio personality Auntie E, are hosting a Juneteenth party. The festivities are free. Be reminded that the youth table is still open, and we invite you to remain and converse with us as we share food provided by the collective. We close this section of our program with some final words by Sylvie Tower. Sylvie Agnoti Tower is an undergraduate student at the University of Montana studying biochemistry and health science. Sylvie wants to combine her passion for social and racial advocacy with a profession in medicine. Sylvie is an active member of the Black Student Union on campus and strives to further her sense of self and impact on others through continual community engagement. Sylvie Tower.
Thank you all for joining us here in celebration of freedom, resilience, and solidarity. We are fathered here today because we are dedicated to enacting change. I end our ceremony with the wise and eloquent words of poet Amanda Gorman, confident her lyrical genius will incite reflection on this historical day. First, however, I must take a moment to emphasize Juneteenth's significance. Many lifetimes of Black Americans suffered at the hands of enslavers before the abolitionist movement rose up in protest. 250,000 Black Americans remained enslaved for years after the proclamation signing. Since emancipation, Black Americans toiled, marched, and sacrificed their lives in the ongoing quest for civil rights. The commitment of these generations is Juneteenth's legacy. Unwavering, continual effort, organization, and fighting for what is right, so the children of the present and the children of the future live lives rich with peace, joy, and unbound opportunity. Currently, our society faces rising oppression and injustice against people of all walks of life. Let's remedy this. We must assemble to dismantle deepening systemic barriers and troubling government actions, carrying on the spirit, the passion, and the pride that is Juneteenth. Now, for Amanda Gorman's words, a poem, Back to the Past. At times, even blessings will bleed us. There are some who lost their lives and those who were lost from ours, who we might now re-enter. All are someone softly. The closest we get to time travel is our fears softening, our hearts unclenching, as we become more akin. To kin as we return to who we were, before we actually were anything or anyone. That is, when we were born unhating and unhindered, howling wetly, with everything we could yet become. To travel back in time is to remember when all we knew of ourselves was love. Next poem, Lucent. What would we seem stripped down like a wintered tree? Glossy scabs, tight raised skin. These can look silver in certain moonlights. In other words, our scars are the brightest parts of us. The crescent moon, the night's lucent lesion. We are felled oaks beneath it, branches full of empty. Look closer. What we share is more than what we've shed. And what we share is the bark, the bones. Paleontologists from one fossilized femur can dream up a species, make believe a body where there was none. Our remnants are revelation, our requiem as raptus. When we bend into dirt, we're truth preserved without our skin. And that is the final poem. Thank you everyone for coming, and happy Juneteenth.
So guys, thank you again on behalf of the collective, on behalf of the Historic Museum. Is Mike Bryant still here? Mike? Mike, we had discussed passing the hat, you guys. We do a lot of things that help with, oh, it's going around. Okay, all right, you guys are way ahead of me, sorry. Yeah. Good deal. Well, thank you again. Remember, restrooms are there and there, the building and by the train, and there's free food provided by the University Congregational Church here. Thank you for a very successful 4th Annual Juneteenth, and God bless you, and take care of yourselves.